Y'all, today we need to talk about the death of something that no longer exists in Wizard101. And I'm talking about nothing other than the beloved Super Crown sales that we all used to know and love. Now, the Super Crown sale, that is not an event that Wizard101 has released in over 5 years, but to really understand how big this was, it is important to look at how crowns are valued right now and even when there's a sale nowadays. So this is basically how crowns are valued when there's literally no sale, no extra event going on. This is basically how it is for the majority of the year. And Wiz does this thing that a lot of people do when you can buy things in bulk, where the lowest amount of crowns that you can get per dollar happens when you make the smallest purchase, right? Whenever you buy 2,500 or 5,000 crowns, you only get 500 crowns per dollar, but that rate gets a little bit more generous as you buy more crowns, even when there isn't a sale. When there is a sale, this happens every now and then, the most generous rate jumps all the way up per 1,000 crowns to $1. Now, for a lot of people, especially if you've played in the past 5 years, buying 60,000 crowns for $60 or 80,000 crowns for $80, that seems like the ultimate score. But this is the rate that we once had before 2020 when all of these abruptly stopped. Something that I think a lot of people would love to see again. This is kind of crazy to look at, and obviously, in order to get the best bang for your buck, you still have to spend tons of money, right? Like, it's $100 for the most amount. But to get over 1,000 crowns per dollar, that makes a gigantic difference, especially when these came out. Well, I'm sure y'all are wondering, especially if you've never seen this, because this is a relatively old feature, what happened to Super Crown sales? This happened all the way back around 2019 with the release of Imperia Part 2 and basically the advent of the Catacombs update. Wizard101 was doing this thing that they hadn't done in a while, where they were taking a break from the main storyline and basically adding side content, the Catacombs, instead of a whole world. And while I would argue that Imperia was relatively successful, Catacombs was actually really, like, a lot of people were playing it. This was still during a time where I would argue the player base was shrinking, right? They literally peaked earlier in the decade, and it would be hard for them to come back. I think sometime around this time, Wizard101 made the decision, you know what? We have to optimize profit. We cannot be selling crowns at this type of rate. I think the fact that Super Crown sales in general were removed really shows something about Wizard101 that honestly a lot of people talk about. It's the idea that it's actually really built in terms of, like, I guess its profitability by smaller numbers of people making a lot of bigger purchases. Right, a lot of people call this whaling. I think being a whale on this game, I don't know why it's like seen as like a really crazy awful thing. I think really it's just a lot of people that have played this game for a long time. They'll justify bigger purchases, and if you're gonna make bigger purchases over a long period of time, you should always buy at a discount. That's what these Super Crown sales were really for. And I have a real feeling that as their player base was maybe shrinking or maybe just not growing at the same rate, Wiz decided, you know what, if we're gonna profit off of the whales, we're not gonna give them as good of a rate. And ever since that decision, the most crowns that you could buy per dollar was just 1,000, which actually was much lower than what we were used to when these crown sales were popping off. Now, why am I making this video now, all the way in 2025? Because since that event, a lot of things have changed, and I really don't know why they haven't been able to reevaluate their position on Super Crown sales in general. Right after they got rid of Super Crown sales, something monumental happened for Wizard101. A whole new company took over the game, Gamigo, and not only have we seen them, like, you know, maybe do things to the game, like maybe increase the actual scope of updates, especially in recent updates like Wallaroo, Selenopolis, things like Archmastery, Spell Fusion, things that we never thought we'd get this frequently. Not only have they increased the scope of these updates, they've also done something in terms of monetizing that a lot of people have noticed. Every single gear template in this game, while yes, you could farm for it, you could also simply open up a bunch of packs. Oh, there's a gauntlet update in the spring? Well, guess what? You could open up a pack for it. Oh, there's a raid that's like 8 months old? You can raid, or you could open up a pack for it. Oh, you finished Selenopolis, but you don't want to grind out the bosses for the badges so you could craft a bunch of stuff? Guess what? You could open up a 600 crowns pack for it. It's so weird to me that I really do think that this happened. There was a time where the player base was shrinking, so they like wanted to make sure monetization was like airtight. And yet since then, especially after Gamigo, right after they stopped doing these sales, they started monetizing more and more things, meaning more people have more reasons to buy crowns than ever before. I actually don't mind that they've actually monetized literally everything. While I will say that becomes a problem when things are too tedious when you don't pay, right? There's a lot of things that follow this pattern. I would argue things like event spellments and just spellments in general. To max out all of these, there is so much farming that I have to do, right? A lot of this is actually not packs. It's a lot of cantrips, a lot of like, you know, dungeon farming. Almost all of my wizards also spammed gold key bosses to get lore spellments maxed out, right? Those are honestly really, really tedious, but even those you can buy simply if you bought a lot of crowns. Never in any other point in this game has there been a way to just buy your way out of spending time doing things. So my real question is, now that we're here, right, there's no such thing as a spellment that you can't open up a pack for, especially once that design saga spellment pack that got teased a few months ago gets released. There really, you can't say it about any spellment. If you want to, you can buy it. You can't say it about any gear. You can't say it about any jewels, reagents. There's always a viable alternative. In my opinion, they should go out of their way to make crowns just a little bit more affordable, especially when people are buying in bulk. This is the current schedule that Wiz does crown sales. I found this on Reddit. I don't know who did this, but I joined it. Honestly, very, very fascinating though, especially in the most recent year. It looks like they're very, very predictably periodical about how they do crown sales. It's very, very obvious that they roll out these crown sales in cycles so that they can basically get, I guess, every quarter, maybe a little bit more than that. They have a bunch of people have an optimal time to buy a bunch of crowns. They'll run a crowns reward event as well, and they'll try to time it with all of their major updates. Imagine if for the really, really big update though, they had a way for you to get more crowns. I think that's what they should do. They should make it, especially if there's a way maybe just to unlock it on some, you know, accounts and not others, if they want to like really limit it. Make it so that you have some way to access more crowns for less money. They kind of already do this over the holidays where you can get like a mystery discount, but what if based on the age of your account, you have a higher chance of, you know, seeing super crown sales pop up? I feel like that's all it really has to be. It doesn't have to be some kind of thing that everyone has access to, just everyone has a chance to access it. So if you happen to see it pop up on your account, maybe sometimes you can randomly log in and see like a pop-up that gives it to you, right? Something like that. I think would really reinvigorate people to actually just show up and log in, because what if by logging in you increase the chances of getting crowns at a really reduced rate like we used to have? Obviously Wiz doesn't ever have to bring these back. I will say this though, I do think there's a big demographic on Wizard101 of people that play the game, quit for a little bit, wait for an update that's like, you know, maybe it piques their attention, they come back after a few years. And I'm sure y'all know where I'm going with this. I think the upcoming Darkmoor update, it's 1,000,000,000% gonna be one of those updates. There have been people playing since 2014. They recognize Darkmoor. They know how elite that world was. You're gonna have a bunch of people come back after 5 years. Maybe they're even interested in buying crowns, but immediately they're gonna be put off by the fact that crowns haven't been as cheap as they used to be in years. I think it's a bad look when they return and see all the new things that they could buy for crowns, but also a lack of sales that they actually used to expect at least a few times a year. Bring it back in some capacity, maybe for the birthday season. Not that you could do it this year, that's already over. Maybe the holiday season. Some people should have some access to super crown sales. And honestly, I think they should reevaluate just not having it all together. Maybe do it once a year, see how it goes. Let's be honest, I don't think one point in a year where a bunch of people are buying crowns at a discount is going to be a long-term problem for Wiz. I simply don't see it. It's a weird like blind spot, I feel like, in the way they experiment with monetization. They give us things to buy, they don't give us discounts as much as they used to. A weird combo that I don't think works, especially for returning players. But let me know what y'all think about the super crown sales. I made a video really recently where I was talking about buying every zone with crowns, and a lot of people were like, why are you valuing the crowns at $1 per 1,000? It's because we literally can't have any other value at any other better rate, especially if we're looking at the past 5 years, which I think is so tragic. Let me know if y'all played during the time where super crown sales existed. How did that affect y'all's purchasing? Would y'all be more likely to purchase crowns if you had better rates in the sales that we even have now? I look forward to reading all of y'all's thoughts. Drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a sub if you're new, and as always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome, y'all. See y'all soon, and yeah.